Hey guys! Cycrafter here. Today I am back in another episode of Anime vs. Reality. And I have more apples. Oh. I'm regretting taking such a big bite of that one. And because I have apples, it means I'm back in Spice and Wolf. Let's get into it. We're kicking off from episode 5, which is going to be the last two episodes of the whole Fermi arc. I'm just calling it the Fermi arc right now. I forget what I actually... I think I just called it the Fermi arc because it was focused on him. And then it'll go into the second arc. So from episode 5, as the festival continues on, Kraft makes his way to the Rowan Trading Association building to find Guy, interrupting his conversation with someone else to discuss business about pyrite. Guy did say before that it would be too pitiable for Fermi if he would help Kraft too much. And Kraft knows Deanna dislikes business talk from the last time they met. Kraft just wants to know how to communicate with Deanna. Also, I call Deanna instead of Dean because she prefers that. But not for profit. But still for his own gain, it's like, For him, it's a basic need, like an extra set of hands when a traveling merchant's cart gets stuck in the mud, all while fearing bandits could attack out of nowhere. All to compare Hollow to precious cargo he doesn't want to lose. Which is a very odd comparison. I guess it makes sense with the time period. Oh. Okay, apple. Okay, got it. After a long pause, Guy says that's what he was waiting for the entire time, saying that a good merchant waits patiently, even in a major crisis. It's like, yeah, I was really being patient. Guy tells Kraft to say to Deanna, "I've come to buy a crate of white feathers." And as repayment, Guy just wants to hear another legend for Kraft. Dude is getting off light on money. Just tell us stories, man. Oh. Didn't realize he fell over. Late in the evening, Kraft visits Deanna and repeats the line Guy gave him when she answers the door. Deanna says that the festival has made her quite popular, mentioning she's had multiple visitors in one day alone, which Kraft figures it must have been Fermi. Kraft explains he was quite stubborn with Guy to get the white feathers line from him. Also, he can ask permission to buy pyrite from the alchemists. Deanna quickly catches on to the fact that Kraft isn't there to make a profit off pyrite, but to sell his jewel with his cargo. Yeah, Deanna's a bit smart. SMRT smart. She laughs at the further he talks about not losing his cargo, at how her passphrase just means that someone has to entertain her a little. Before letting Kraft go by the pyrite he needs, Deanna reveals that someone else also bought some pyrite on credit, with the amount being around 1,600 Irida on the current market value, which is about 420 silver. Like, I don't know if they use the right values on their boards, because DCCC is 800 in Roman numerals, when 1600 is MDV or MDC. And I did confirm that they were using Roman numerals, because later on they show us a bit of a shot where it's like DCCLXXX, which is 780. So it's a bit weird. For safety reasons in business, Deanna can't reveal who bought the pyrite, the craft, but will do her best to help him and tell Kraft the results ASAP. Asking where she can contact Kraft tomorrow, he says he'll be in front of the mineral merchant's stall in the marketplace. Kraft tells Deanna money is no object, as long as they're not asking for double the market value or something crazy. Before Kraft leaves for the night, he asks Deanna if there are legends of pagan gods and humans getting into relationships, to which she says there are plenty. It's like, yeah, it's a common theme. Kraft returns to Mark to tell him how everything went, that someone beat him to purchasing the alchemist pyrite, so he doesn't know how it will shake out. Mark tells Lanto to report what he learnt to Kraft and himself, reminding him to be quiet about it. Obviously, it's like, yeah, shush. It's like, Kraft was expecting people would have been secretly buying up lots of pirate on the side, since they're town merchants with reputations at stake. They'll sell due to the price of pirate rising too much. He also figured out that Mark sent Lando out to make Kraft look like a traveling merchant, blinded by greed. Which sort of is. No, he's not. I can't say that. I can't say that with a straight face. Kraft goes to agree to Mark starting negotiations when he stops and apologizes for putting Mark through everything. But Mark tells Kraft he should be saying thank you, which Kraft does, while noting that Kraft is different now. Mark asks what Kraft would do if he didn't exist in the world, if Kraft would be running around town frantically. He notes that Kraft is doing everything at the moment for the sake of Hollow, seemingly knowing it was pure luck he started traveling with her. Mark talks about how poets say love can't be bought and preachers can't say there are things of great importance than money. But everyone works for it, so how can they get something more important than it? He says that people consider something that takes great effort to obtain to be precious, but sometimes something precious just shows up, which is absolutely true. Take what Mark is saying here to heart. It is absolutely true. To Kraft, Femi might be a knight, but Kraft is the MC of the story. A bit better. Making him realize how badly he messed up with Hollow, and knowing how to answer Hollow's question. Kraft ends up falling asleep behind Mark's shop, and when he wakes up, he asks Lanto what the plan is for today. Atlanto answers that Mark's helping lay a trap for Fermi. Kraft says he might have to ask Lanto, yes, that is the full name in this, to take on a difficult task for him. But first, he's paying for breakfast for the two of them. For the time being, Kraft will be watching the market until noon to watch the price of pyrite for if it rises too much. While he's doing that, Lanto asks Mark how Kraft will win his duel, and it's all based on item rarity and people wanting to buy it, while selling will drop the price. If no one sells their stock, they'd be profiting by holding it. So Kraft's plan is to stop Fermi from profiting by selling at the right time to force a massive drop in the price. Kraft sees an old lady buying, and that Fermi and Hollow are at the market together as well, which throws Kraft off, having to put on a relaxed face when Fermi comes to talk to him. However, Fermi is already ahead of Kraft, having 14 Lima gold prepared for Kraft from this morning in exchange for the contract. Oh no. Seems like Kraft might be on the losing end of this situation. It comes down to this one episode. Episode 6. Lana wonders if Kraft will be... hold on. Lando wonders if Kraft will be ready, and Mark thinks Kraft won't be able to compete effectively with the amount of pyrite he has. The only hope is that Deanna's assistant comes to sell a superficial amount to get people's hopes up of more to buy, making the price rise. Lanto figures that Fermi could fake selling to bait Kraft into selling his pyrite. Kraft sees Hollow leave and thinks about Hollow and Fermi sleeping together, only to be brought back to reality by someone buying some pyrite. Mark learns from another town merchant that the price of pyrite has already gone up quite a bit, with the guy predicting another 20% price rise by the afternoon. Since Fermi has 820 silver of pyrite, if the price does go up by 20%, Fermi's pyrite would be worth 960 silver. Fermi could easily sell his pyrite and find another 40 silver with ease to seal the contract. And it's just like, it's a death sentence at that point, in terms of money. Kraft is left thinking where Diana's assistant is and the information that Hollow would have on Fermi when the price for pyrite reaches 795 coins. And Kraft concludes that Fermi made a deal with Diana. Lanto mentions that even if Fermi wins, Kraft would also get paid, which for a merchant is a win. But it means Kraft would lose Hollow. It's like, you won the money, but you didn't win the girl. Thinking about everything that has led to this alongside Hollow's reaction to the truth, Kraft suddenly sees Fermi panicking when a sale suddenly happens, but it wasn't Fermi. It's like, oh, okay. As soon as the sale happens, someone else buys up some pyrite, and Kraft is left debating on if he should sell, when Lando interrupts him to say someone is wanting to pay for barley in stones for 250 coins worth. Kraft sends Lando to deal with the transaction quickly, as another sale happens behind him. Mark told Lando that Fermi brought 520 silver pyrite from Kraft with the certificate, asking Lando what it meant. If the price rises, the certificate will sell, but if the price drops, and it won't, and the person with the certificate at the end loses. And that's the poison of buying on credit. Yeah, you gotta be careful in business deals, especially buying on credit. Fermi is looking for Hollow, and Kraft is waiting on Lando when someone makes an ore purchase. And Kraft takes the chance to sell to bring the price back down before Fermi could sell. Lando reaches Kraft with another 250 silver pyrite, and Kraft decides not to wait for the assistant and sell it immediately when someone places an order. Fermi is about to sell, and Deanna's assistant finally arrives with a message of failed negotiations. That the alchemist won't sell, meaning Kraft loses. Kraft tells Lando to go tell Mark the plan failed, but Lando shouts at Kraft to not give up so easily. He yells that the god of wealth doesn't come to those that pray, but those that don't give up, and that he loves Hollow, knowing he'd get beaten for that last part. However, Kraft says he'd beat himself up, saying those that don't give up realize things that no one else believes. Thinking about his previous dealings, Kraft realizes the truth that while all types of trade will start to seem risky, Hollow is his guidepost in them. Kraft tells Lando to go spread the rumor as soon as he sells the pirate, because he's finally figured out that it was Hollow that made the deal with Deanna. As he approaches the desk to sell on Hollow's subtle cue, she sells at the same time, meaning Fermi didn't raise the 1,020 silver to seal the contract. Fermi didn't lose that much money in the end, but Hollow did want to leave him in a poorer state than he is now, all because of what Fermi said to her. I don't think you get details on that. Hollow's still upset with Kraft over the whole Yatsu is destroyed thing, as well as the arrogance of Kraft taking matters into his own hands all over the contract Fermi made with Hollow. But Kraft's biggest mistake was not trusting Hollow and missing the white feathers clue that Hollow brought the pyrite from Deanna. It's like, hello, big white feathers. You gave me different feathers. However, he thought that in combination with Fermi talking to the vendor was a trap set by them. Oh, he thought that detail in combination with Fermi's talking to the vendor was a trap set by them, which annoys Hollow. It's like, yeah, it wasn't a trap. It was a trap for him. Hollow had signed the contract to get Kraft angry enough to confront her, as well as remembering what Hollow said back in Riebenhagen, to not beat around the bush and be honest. When Hollow said, "I'm sorry," it was her coming back to her senses instead of her rejecting him. She yells in his face for ruining the plan she put together and for the deal he had with Fermi. It's like, can you blame the guy? Also, got some bruising. Seeing their relationship as shallow and wishful thinking, Kraft grabs Hollow's hand and says he still wants to travel with her. He wants to stay focused on business, and outside that, he's slow. Hollow asks what she is to him, and Kraft says he can't express it in words, which she recognizes as dry, biting him on the hand for thinking she likes dried jerky. Kraft asks how Hollow convinced Deanna to sell her pyrite, and she explains she figured out Kraft's plan from what Fermi told her, impressed by what he came up with. Turns out that Hollow went to Deanna for help, tracking down Deanna's house from the scent on the letter. Hollow asked Deanna to make up a story about Yoitsu still being around and pass it on to Kraft, but Deanna ignored her and got as much information from Hollow as possible. Kraft showed up at the same time, so Hollow hid in the rafters, and Deanna came up with the plan to test Kraft's resolve. Which also means Hollow heard grass scratching about pagan gods and humans baiting, but Hollow's fine with that. Awkward! That's a pretty cleaned out apple. Hollow also learned that Deanna is actually a bird, bigger than Kraft, that fell for a traveling priest and stayed with him to build a church, only for the priest to get suspicious when she didn't age. She announces she wants to return to her homeland, even if it no longer exists, as the straw structures are set alight. Hollow wouldn't mind if Kraft got as fiery as the straw structures, and Kraft says he'll manage to when he gets drunk. It's like, apple in my teeth. Another apple, another bite. There's got a bit already in there. This is the tastiest bit I've ever done for a podcast. But yeah, we're in episode 7. Kraft and Hollow have left Crimson for Renoze, with mostly Hollow getting a sleep in and enjoying Kraft's head pats. On their journey, they're hit by the cold air that even makes Hollow cold. It's like, when the wolf girl is getting cold, that's when you gotta be concerned about the weather. When Hollow calls out a place that looks like burnt rice, Kraft's stomach starts grumbling for food, which makes Hollow laugh. It's like, Later on, Hollow asks about all the different liquor in Renose, and Kraft says enough to outlast a blizzard, which Hollow hopes for. It's like, yes, the absolute alcoholism in this anime is off the charts. Kraft mentions that Renose is known for its lumber and pelts, but I'm telling Hollow to not get upset if there are wolf pelts, but she uses the fox scarf to say she'll be fine. She says humans are more shocking because they buy and sell each other in the slave trade. Oh no, that's right, this is the slavery arc. I love that awkwardness because this is going to get weird. Or, not weird, just... Again, very questionable. The show knows how to handle, like, tough topics. And Kraft... It's like, oh, Kraft sees this as profitable and necessary. It's like, oh, no. Explaining that in the same way Kraft calmly talks about trading people, Hollow's kind have no sympathy for those that are hunted. Reminding Kraft of the Fermi arc, Hollow knows that he got worked up over Fermi going after Hollow, which embarrasses Kraft into speaking in monotone. It's like, Yeah, this is the slavery arc. Finally reaching Renose, many merchants are camped outside the city walls, all with face coverings and waiting to enter Renose. Bizarrely, the merchants aren't doing any business and there isn't a revolt going on because the gates are open. It's like, why are you not doing business? Hollow thinks that Kraft's expecting another bout at Renose and goes off about all the previous incidents being all Kraft's fault, but he can't accept it. She says Kraft's measuring her against his standards, so it feels like he's being manipulated by her, which Kraft denies. It's like, just give me a moment to rewind. Some of the stuff is really on Hollow. Like, I would say that the armor thing, that one would be on Hollow because she was the one that noticed the scam in the first place. And Kraft didn't know about the armor market burst, so you can't blame him, really. You can only really blame Hollow. Kraft does have a moment where he breaks character and hugs her out of love, but it's just his imagination. It's like, oh, we're getting delusional, huh? Hollow brings up the idea of stew for dinner, and Kraft says it'd be nice to have one with a flour and butter based over a cream, even if it's pricier. It's like, I did not know you could have a flour and butter based stew. She seems interested in the cream one, saying there are times the scent of milk is better than wine. That's until Kraft mentions vegetables. That's what Hollow was like. Talk about having a meaty meal. Kraft says that people say that good things are poison to the eyes and tongue, which is unfair to Hollow because of her being 700 years. Because of her 700 years without a meal. It's like, yeah. Kraft and Hollow get patted down to check for weapons, and Kraft receives a traveling merchant identification plaque, meaning he can only do business with townfolk that display the same plaque. Huh. They do find Hollow's tail during the pat down, but believe it's just a cheap wolf pelt, which ticks Hollow off, because to her it's not about the quality, but the difference of species. She uses an example of a choice between a low-end superior item and a high-end inferior item. A person would recommend the second one, which craft relates to a steward with no fame, fortune, or personality, to an ordinary citizen with those qualities. It's like, yeah. Like, if you want good quality, it's between getting good quality or getting something that just works. Like, a Nintendo, like, the old Nintendos, they still work. They're good quality. Whereas, like, more modern stuff tend to break a lot more easy because they're more sensitive to certain actions. But Nintendo, you could almost, like, chuck that on the floor and while the screen would crack, it would still work. Kraft finds an inn for the two to stay at, while Hollow, leaving Hollow to pick which room they'll stay in, while Kraft takes the horse to the stable. The innkeeper informs Kraft that Hollow chose the third floor room by the window, which surprises Kraft. It's like, huh. Hollow is already out of her clothes and in the bed to get warm, so Kraft hangs up his clothes to dry after complimenting her tail. While waiting for Hollow's clothes to dry... Oh, he hangs up her clothes, yeah. While waiting for Hollow's clothes to dry, Kraft notices someone watching him from the shadows. He did fall asleep waiting for her clothes to dry, and Hollow gets her revenge by spending big on food. To everyone's shock, it's like, everyone's like amazed at Hollow's ability to pack food down her gullet. The next morning, Kraft is first up and goes to pat Hollow's head, but realizes she was expecting it, instead deciding to go take care of his appearance. Hollow says he's too expensive already, to the point he wouldn't find any buyers, calling back to the Fermi arc. Another person passes by with a pie, and Kraft gets one for himself and Hollow each, while discussing that Kraft plans to look for more stories about Hollow. Hollow's going to leave Kraft to do that because he knows the right channels, and he asks what she knows. Using the saying, the man who knows the way does the work. The man who knows why that man works becomes his employer. Hollow believes she needs to reward Kraft as his employer for his gallant work. However, Kraft doesn't want a reward. Happy as long as Hollow is in a good mood, which annoys Hollow because he's treating her like a spoiled child. Which Kraft fires back that at least children listen when it's called. Ooh! Oh, damn. That's a roast and a half. When they're both ready to speak to the owner, Hollow jokes around about a magic spell that disappears when she claps her hands, and Kraft flies along to make her laugh. While descending the stairs, they keep messing around until Kraft takes Hollow's hand and kisses it, which stuns her to the point she falls down the stairs and whispers his spell was too strong. It's like, damn. Some wounded, huh? Hollow has noticed Kraft has developed a sharp wit, and is surprised to learn his smooth talking was in the moment. Sidling up to Kraft, Hollow does something with a tail that makes Kraft blush. It's like, we really did like almost like time skip a bit in this, because at the end of the Crimson arc, they were not really they weren't really together like this. But now it's just out of nowhere. They're like very like romance forward almost. Talking to the innkeeper, Kraft asks if there is a town chronicler or anyone that knows the legends of Renoze. There is someone by the name of Rigolo who's a chronicler, but he's currently described in a 50-man meeting, so he won't meet with anyone. The merchants outside the town have a heavy investment in the 50-man meeting since there's a problem with the fur pelts. The innkeeper mentions there's also old lady Bolter the Tanner, who knows quite a few Renoze legends herself, as well as another oldie at the Latin Company, before realizing that the legends of Renoze will only be found in books, meaning they'll have to wait for Rigolo to finish the 50-man meeting. It's like, what do we do with our spare time? Outside, Kraft asks Hollow if she wants something to eat, when they notice someone staring at them. Hollow says that the lady was surprised when she saw her, and Hollow doesn't get the sense of the lady being another animal. The moment Kraft realizes Hollow said that person was a girl, Hollow gets annoyed at him for looking at the lady. It's like, your own fault there, Hollow. Kraft asks what they should do to pass the time, since they can't easily meet with Rigolo. But Hollow notices Kraft is curious what the meeting is about. And he can't lie to Hollow, admitting he's full of curiosity about what's happening in Renoze, and if it will be possible to make a profit. The identification plaques are enough to indicate something is going on, but Hollow warns him about going too far, so instead Kraft decides they should explore Renoze, calling Hollow a princess. Hollow asks what they'll do since she doesn't even remember visiting the town, and that it's changed a lot, and Kraft suggests they go to the port to check out the ships. Delicious apple. Very delicious apple. Okay, we're at the last episode for this podcast episode. As delicious as these apples are, I'm so looking forward to the point where I don't need to eat them anymore. Because after this, I've still got the reboot, which is going to be another 5 weeks of apple eating. But right now, I gotta focus in on episode 8, where down at the port, Hollow finds finds the port amazing, and says she could watch it all day, but she and Kraft just end up drinking and eating. Kraft notes that from the port, the city doesn't seem to have any specific problems. Hollow explains that even between wolf packs having violent territory wars, the forest looks calm from a distance. She calls out 2 people talking about how the tax on goods they're shipping is sky high, along with not wanting to hand them over at the original price. Kraft recognizes it as a hostage tax, and Hollow continues her eavesdropping by saying that Renose is in heavy dispute due to the cancellation of the Northern Expedition. Oh, that Northern Expedition is just killing everything, huh? The guy Hollow is listening to says that the river guy can bet on the outcome of the meeting with his furs, and there's other groups of people in similar conversations. Hollow indicates to Kraft to order her wine, and he does so, but she thinks he ordered it for himself, not to drink, but rather a way to get her help, which Kraft confirms is like, yeah, there's no point lying to her. Back at their inner room, Hollow collapses onto her bed from drunkenness and leaves Kraft, and Kraft leaves her to rest and goes to the pub nearby. The barmaid greets Kraft by saying she's finally fixed a hole in her apron because people stare at the hole when there's one and ignore it completely. Kraft says they'll look at the hole to avoid boring a third hole into her nose by looking at her beautiful face. Rizzler right here, boys. She makes a joke about smelly customers laughing when Kraft interprets it as differently from locals. Getting around to doing her job, she asks if Kraft wants any food or drink, and Kraft asks for 2 tail dishes, and that he's not in a rush when he learns the chef is preparing food for the dock workers. She offers they should have a drink while waiting for the tail dishes, knowing Kraft is here for information, for which Kraft pays and asks about the merchants outside Renose. According to her, they're all fur and fur-adjacent merchants from faraway countries wanting to sell their furs, but can't with the 50-man meeting going on. While the 50-man meeting is going on, fur trading is prohibited within the limits of Renose. She also confirms that what Hollow overheard about its relation to the Northern Expedition being cancelled. Kraft asks if those sailing fur merchants could just sell directly to the merchants outside the city gates, but the barmaid says they're stingy, and after Kraft takes a swig. Yeah, gotta make sure you get your business going. This is unlike merchants and knights, who are so generous they sometimes give her noblewoman clothes, of which the furs they're made from are ridiculously cheap. It's like, yeah, even the cheapest furs can pass for the most expensive items if you do it right. If the furs are not sold and made into clothing, Renose's income will take quite the hit, which the barmaid says is correct. She whispers to Kraft that she thinks the 50-man meeting will end with the merchants outside being prevented from purchasing any fur in Renose. The tail dishes are ready, and the barmaid asks if Kraft has a wife, which he lies about and she gets annoyed about. It's like, Kraft ends up passing by the port, noting how all the boats and carts have furs on board, concluding there's a lot of money involved in Renose. Hollow heard Kraft talking about furs, and says he can't sell a tail, holding it behind her. Noting his face, showing he's willing to sell anything that can be sold. It's like... I'll take a really horrific turn. Kraft disproves her statement by saying he won't sell a strawberry growing on the side of the street. That he buys goods from one person and sells to another. Hollow asks if Kraft heard any gossip, only for Kraft to switch and suggest a game for Hollow to guess which animal and part it is using her nose only, and if she's correct, she can have anything for dinner. Letting her do that, Kraft talks about the merchants outside the city and how the 50-man meeting is likely to end with foreign trading continuing to be banned. He figures some major political powers behind what is happening at the meeting, but isn't sure what kind of power is doing so. Hollow has her guess, which is a big flat tail of her own she doesn't recognize, because at first she couldn't place the smell. But now she remembers it, saying the game was actually about if she could stop herself from crying with nostalgia of the smell. She asks Kraft if she would take advantage of someone's goodwill, which Kraft confirms she always does. They promise to not forget each other's scent, which for Kraft sounds a bit fishy. It's like, huh? No, I'm out of apple. I'm out of apple. Later on, Hollow asks if Kraft is still troubled. That, with the money from Crimson, Kraft could easily set up a trap. Or set up a shop. She has no right to stop Kraft, but she wants him to relax, at least for a little while. Which Kraft agrees with. Kraft goes to the innkeeper about the roads to the north, mentioning he's going to Hira, which the innkeeper calls the Heathen Lands. The innkeeper just believes that's what a merchant does, and goes anywhere to make money, but Kraft says when he dies, that bag of money will be thrown away. The innkeeper asks why labor for it if that's the case, and Kraft compares it to cleaning one's home. You don't ask why you clean it, you just do it. Asking if Kraft is leaving soon, Kraft answers that he plans to stay around until the 50-man meeting is finished. If Kraft and Hollow were to leave now, they'd be halfway to near Hira before the meeting even finished, but he probably should use a long-haired horse. There's one in the stable, owned by a man from the north, that would know the road conditions well, but the innkeeper doesn't know his name. The innkeeper says Kraft might regret staying until the end of the 50-man meeting, and talks about the many trends in a person's life, which Kraft says one is fighting fate. Two. The two trade names the innkeeper's name being Harold Ekrund, when they get interrupted by the hooded figure that has been watching Kraft recently. She wants to chat with Kraft regarding his business he's hoping to have with Rigolo. Asking why Kraft is being weary of her, he explains it's because female merchants are rare to see. She's surprised Kraft saw her through her disguise, but he explains that it was actually Hollow that sensed it. Removing her heavy clothing disguise, she says her name is Frul Boland, but A. Boland for business, saying she doesn't like to praise when she does up her makeup. But he doesn't know why Frul says she's quite the talker and is sociable, which is making an impression on Kraft, but he doesn't understand why she's so interested in him. One of the reasons is because of Harold talking to him, that he has good eyes for certain people. Frul asks about Hollow, because not many merchants travel with female companions, but doesn't expect details on it. It's like, I just want to know the why, not the why and extra. She took notice of the fact that Hollow and Kraft have travelled quite the distance with no money bounding them to places. She couldn't be direct when she suggested they have some small talk, using Rigolo's name to convince him. Asking why Kraft wants to meet Rigolo, he explains that he heard that Rigolo is Renose's chronicler and wants to see the old stories of Renose. Frul finds that to be an odd reason to see Rigolo, thinking Kraft wanted information on the furs, which Kraft isn't opposed to on the side, but Hollow doesn't want him to. She states that Rigolo does have a mountain of books from generations ago in his study, and that he wants to leave the role of scribe from the 50-man meeting and just read those stories. It's like, these are some real page turners, people. Get to reading them. If Kraft were to go to Rigolo now, he'd probably just glare at Kraft and turn away because of all the people that want to meet him. Frul says she's doing business with the church and that Rigolo usually writes things for them. And because of that connection, she knows Rigolo pretty well. She notes Kraft is different from the others around them, wanting to shake Kraft's hand, but he refuses and asks how much it would cost to introduce him to Rigolo. However, she doesn't expect money from him, just wanting to chat with him whenever, without needing to hide her gender, which to her is worth more than Lima gold, which Kraft says is less than Lumine silver. Wouldn't that be Lumine gold? Frul says Frul wants to have a chat with Hollow, but Kraft thinks she wouldn't agree to it. But she says there's nothing you can understand less than a woman's heart, along with the fact she doesn't understand woman talk. And that's where episode 8 ends. Just on that conversation rather awkwardly. It's just like, okay. Frul wants to talk to Hollow for some reason, and we'll find out that reason soon enough. But for now, we're just shy of an hour. So for YouTube, links will be in the description to both the channels and to Twitch for you guys to check out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding. And Sidecrafter out.